Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 44. I am your host, Alejandro, and with me is SpongeBob that just heaved a sigh of relief.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul, and I'm really glad that I have a job still.
No need to go into details on that. It's just so funny, like what you told me that you had one of those eureka gotcha moments that if you had that you're so glad that you caught on time.
hmm
So,
hmm
yeah,
One of
that's why we're
those
like,
boss doesn't need to know because I fixed the problem.
yeah. Hopefully he doesn't listen and he doesn't listen to this podcast.
I guarantee he does not. He would not be caught dead listening to a gaming podcast.
Awesome. How you doing, Paul? It's November 9th, 2023. Today is a rather special day. Hopefully you know why.
Yep. I know yesterday was special because it was actually my anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Today is special because of many game releases and a lot of other things that I'm probably blanking out on, but also
Mm-hmm.
apparently it's News Central, so
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. And also 1 year anniversary for God of War Ragnarok.
Yep.
That's also
Also that
today.
they posted a really good GIF of Kratos and
It's
Atreus
dancing,
dancing.
right?
The thing that you retweeted,
Yeah.
that was gave me a good chuckle.
Yeah. And if you were in the Discord that they opened last year, they did like a Q&A with with both directors, Eric Williams and Cory Barlog, and the writer Matt Sofus to kind of like commemorate the 1 year celebration of that game. So it's like, I still can't believe it's been 1 year. It hasn't felt like it. Also because
Not at all.
so much has come out since then, and so much that I think I've enjoyed more has come out since then that it's been harder for Ragnar to like remain there. That's still a game that when I saw the anniversary was today, I was like, yeah, I remember I adored that game last year, and I don't know why my mind has just not lingered in it, but I owe it to that game to go through it again. So hopefully that will happen soon because we're done with the release season. Like, we're not gonna talk about any new game this week because we've just been playing a bunch of old stuff. So, which is perfect for the kind of week we're about to have because you mentioned it is News Central. But before we dive into that, this is just a reminder that this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. And just for a little housekeeping, yeah, you can still check out our spoiler cast that me and Paul did for Spider-Man 2 that came out 2 weeks ago. Like, that's a spoiler cast that, to me personally, I still needed to say more things about that game than we had the time for. So this week I recorded a follow-up to that spoiler cast with our buddy Sebastian over at the single-player experience that went for almost 3 hours. Because we literally went through that entire game because there was a lot to say, and I wanted to say more that we couldn't cover in the hour and change we covered. So that's gonna be a nice compliment, and it's gonna go live at any point. So when that happens, I'll definitely link it in the description below. And then last week's episode had a little bit of spoiler talk for Alan Wake 2 if you want to like check on that. That was fun, and also my reviews for Super Mario Wonder, Marvel Spider-Man 2, the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, and the Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 are all live. Which, oh yeah, crap, Paul, we finished the campaign for Modern Warfare 3 real quick. What a
Mm,
garbage campaign that was.
mm. The
Like,
fact that we finished that and we almost didn't even include it
yeah,
says a lot.
yes,
If you're looking for the deep emotion that made all men of every age realize that they actually had emotions, that's not what we're looking for here, and that's not what
mm-hmm,
we found at all.
mm-hmm,
The certain little things get tread over, and all of the
mm-hmm,
emotion has been stripped out of them. It is
yeah,
completely a puppet situation of using a far better storyline and
mm-hmm,
great characters in a terrible way.
yeah. It was. I have to eat crow because in this last week's episode, I gave my initial impressions of that campaign, which were positive. It's so funny. Immediately afterwards, before I stopped, it all like knows that. It's
I'll
like
give you a little bit of a pass because everything you had played was genuinely
yeah.
interesting. The opening mission and the first like open world
The
mission
the first
were
two open
solid.
world missions, yeah. Then everything else was copy and pasted from the multiplayer with nothing interesting happening. And then the linear missions were just retreads of past glories. It's like, it's everything I disliked from the Modern Warfare 2 campaign of like not doing anything original, but like trying to chase old glories and doing them worse, done even worse. And the campaign just ends. It's a 3.5 hour campaign, maybe 4 hours if you're pushing, and it just literally ends with a emotional beat that has happened before in the same game with the same name for 12 years ago, and it happened way better back then than how it happened here. And that's how they wanted to end this campaign and leave it in a very incomplete way, to be like, yeah, we're gonna be doing more Modern Warfare stories because last time we screwed up for closing the story so definitively. And even though saying that you get screwed up by doing a complete trilogy and closing it so well is like asinine, because it's just about being creatively bankrupt and just like stretching something that, to me, is like, why are you stretching when you're just literally copying the story from before? It's like that's why I was so disappointed with Modern Warfare 2 last year, because the cool premise, drug cartels, like the task were it's like, yes, doing something interesting, not the same. And then it turned out to be the same because it was building towards the exact same story, and that's what happened with Modern Warfare 3. It was like they crammed the Modern Warfare 2 and 3 Makarov story into this game, done worse, retroactively making it fit with the new characters and the new production values and all that, but like stripped any personality and stripped any uniqueness from that story from before. And it works so differently when it's not in the backdrop of like a World War 3, which is what made that other Modern Warfare campaign more interesting, even though Modern Warfare 3 was one of the most hated Call of Duties of the 360 era. So, but that was because that was the feeling towards Call of Duty had finally earned, like, it had become so big that now you're gonna get the haters. That's why it was so hated, but it was not because that game was bad. Modern Warfare 3 2011 is significantly a much better game than this one. And the multiplayer unlocks on tonight, actually, which, by the way, yes, the file size of that nonsense is insane, because they put a 200 gig patch to try to like reformat the entire files so that it like emphasizes Modern Warfare 3 more than 2, because both games exist in the same file. So it was too much. I had to delete it and re-download it, because I was like, I'd rather just re-download the game instead of having to do a patch. But yeah, it's like I said, thumbs up last week for what I had played in the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. I rescind that heavily. I gave the campaign a 5 out of 10, the lowest I've scored something this year. And I absolutely do not recommend it. Even my dad read my review and he was like, wow, you decimated that campaign. I was like, I was actually pretty generous, all things considered. I've seen scores even lower. And now that Call of Duty is under Microsoft, they gotta do something. It's like they gotta know that the way that Activision was running this, like, it's just not feasible anymore. It's like, this was supposed to be DLC, and then they decided, no, let's make it a full price game. Even though when you play the PS5 version, there's not even a platinum trophy, because all trophies are under Modern Warfare 2. So it's like, it's clear what happened. And even then, people that played the disc version last year and just downloaded Modern Warfare 3 pre-orders, the game was asking them for the Modern Warfare 2 disc to be playable. It's like, what does that tell you? It's like, and that just shines so hard in that campaign. It's like, it's blatant. It's like, it's actually like despicable how like obvious it is that they blew that they're willing to charge this much for this. And I still gotta play the zombie mode, but what I've seen is like they're using the Warzone map still and just putting a bunch of shit inside. It's like they become so lazy. It's like, that's what I hated more, like, the more I played that campaign, because like those open world missions were like just lifted from the Warzone campaign, like from Warzone maps. Even linear missions like the No Russian style, like what they wanted to do with No Russian was like the stadium from Verdansk, just repurposed. It's like, it's just so like, do you understand how that campaign kind of came together? But it's like, yeah, it's like, it's clear Call of Duty as it is, if it wants to remain high quality, cannot remain like a yearly thing, like it's going on. I'm really curious to see how Microsoft handles that going forward, because it's no longer Activision.
One good thing that I've gained from all of this, it's that a lot of people have looked back and realized that Infinite Warfare is actually not that bad.
Yeah, Infinite Warfare is like infinitely better, pun intended. It's like, when you see the love and care that campaign got, and that's the thing, like, the people that worked on that campaign worked on the 2019 Modern Warfare campaign. Those people are gone. that explains a lot why the 2022 campaign felt like that. The creative leads that were Naughty Dog people, Taylor Kurosaki and Jacob Minkoff, that worked on Uncharted 3 back in the day, no longer working at Infinity Ward because they went to work at a new studio called That's No Moon, which of course is a Star Wars reference, but it's like, yeah, it's like you can tell, and it's so unfortunate because I have been very vocal that I'm not a huge fan of the 2019 campaign. I'll take it a million times over this, like, because it made me realize at least that campaign tried something. What it tried was pretentious and irresponsible at times, but it was cool seeing them take the Modern Warfare slogan and doing something completely different. Yes, it was missing the bombast that I'm used to, but at least they went for something more intimate and like more quiet. Like, there's no, in this campaign, that has no single memorable mission, just like last year's. And last year's had missions that could have been memorable that overstayed their welcome. The missions this year don't overstay their welcome, but instead it's just boring. It's just tepid. It's vapid. It's like, it's just so soulless. So it's like you see both. We see both sides of the same coin with these two campaigns we got back to back, and what made them bad. And it's so unfortunate. We thought we were done with this era, Paul. We thought we were done.
Yeah, we did, but it turns out we ended up in a new hell of our own creation. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut us off from the rest of our Call of Duty talk, because we got plenty.
There's no need. Yes, there's no need. That's like the only thing. And then we've been playing a bunch of old games that we have nothing to really say there. Maybe until we finish a couple of those games that we've been playing in co-op, we can say that. But this is a jam-packed week of news that we haven't had in months. So no need to talk more and no need to bury the lead. Press X.
For some news.
Story number one, Paul, probably the biggest one, by Wesley LeBlanc over at Game Informer. Rockstar set to release first trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 next month. Rockstar Games will release the first trailer for his highly anticipated sequel to 2013's Grand Theft Auto 5, which became the most profitable entertainment product of all time in 2018, next month. As of August, Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold more than 185 million copies since release 10 years ago. Official news of this trailer from the Rockstar Twitter account comes less than a day after a Bloomberg report that states Rockstar will reveal the sequel, presumably titled Grand Theft Auto 6 with a VI or Grand Theft Auto 6 with just the 6, this week with a trailer for it arriving sometime next month. Since the release of this report, Rockstar confirmed a trailer for the next Grand Theft Auto will in fact be released in December. Game Informer reached out to Rockstar's parent company Take-Two Interactive to ask about this report and reveal, and will update the story if more information is learned. So the journey to the reveal of the next Grand Theft Auto has not happened quietly. In September of last year, unprecedented leaks gave fans a potential look at the sequel in over 90 videos showcasing secret in-development footage of the open-world crime sequel. We also learned last year that the game reportedly stars a female protagonist. Bloomberg says this Grand Theft Auto 5 sequel is set in a fictional version of Miami and features the aforementioned female protagonist as well as a male protagonist. So, finally, Paul, it's been funny. Everyone, like, after that tweet came out, everyone started doing this meme of like how I looked back when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out and how I look now. And many people have aged like fine wine, I tell you. And others
I gotta
haven't.
say, I don't know how much I've aged. Just I think 4 years ago, I got, you know how Facebook sometimes hits you with those. What you looked like back then, and it's really weird seeing the subtle differences, but then all of a sudden being very aware of the passage of time, and that's always really uncomfortable for me to go through. But let me chat about the idea of GTA 6 real quick, just because I feel like a lot of it's been retread and retread and retread and retread. And I was one of those people that was super into GTA 5. Online was like a game of 600, 700 hours for me. That was my Destiny 2 for a really long time. Played solo. I just played races constantly. I got really good at driving just about anything in that game. It like fundamentally changed the way that I saw video games for a while. Flying vehicles, same thing. But it is just both a masterclass of creating lightning in a bottle, and also the unfortunate side of capitalism where everybody's tried to copy it since, including them.
Uh-huh.
And ruining actively a lot of their own projects in the pursuit of continuing the goose that
Monetization.
laid the golden egg,
Hmm.
essentially. So, it's, a train that is, it's just a demonic train that comes around every once in a while, bulldozes everything in its way, and you can kind of enjoy it from a distance. And sometimes you can get a ride on it for a few blocks, and
Hmm.
then you really need to jump off, or it will corrupt your soul. So, that is how I see Take-Two, Rockstar, and GTA 5, specifically online, especially. But at the same time, GTA comes around and it gets this really weird, rare opportunity to say a lot about the society that we're in at the
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
And it speaks it loud enough and usually clever enough, usually,
Hmm.
that you really get something out of it. I mean, you look at your Vice City, your San
San
Andreas,
Andreas.
your for
For
especially the really profound things that they said about different things like immigration
immigration.
and
Hmm.
different aspects of gun control and just drugs and the process of crime and the perpetuation
Yeah.
of it.
I never
And then
gave 4
GTA
enough
5
credit. Yeah, I never gave
oh yeah,
4 enough
it is
credit,
a
like just how sharp.
Shakespearean
Yeah.
tragedy. Um, and 5 really skirted that edge. It did a lot of really great stuff, and in
Hmm.
hindsight, did a lot of really struggling,
Hmm.
difficult, made
Yeah.
some choices, that's for sure. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they want to say this time. I
Hmm.
think that provided their developers have actually aged and haven't stayed a perpetual teenager, we
Hmm.
might get some really interesting things. A lot of hopefully gameplay improvements, new engines, new machines, mechanics that rather, maybe some kind of implementation of Max Payne.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
yeah, I can hope.
technically GTA 5 implemented Max Payne's
They
3's
technically did.
mechanics.
I
So
remember watching the uh, what is it
comparisons.
called? The side by side. Yeah, thank
Hmm.
you. The comparisons about it. But I would like to see even just like a step ahead of that, even just
Hmm.
a little bit more of the mechanics, especially
Yeah.
with the reaction when enemies are hit with bullets.
Hmm.
The physics behind that, like very Red Dead
Yeah.
Redemption.
Red Dead 2 implemented that even further because I know GTA 3 kind of like skirted with that because it was the game immediately after Max Payne 3 back in 2013.
Hmm.
With Max Payne 3 coming out in 2012, I really like that game. Uh, but then it's like to me, I'm curious to see what the sequel to the greatest, like not the best selling game of all time looks like, and also the sequel to Red Dead Redemption 2 because the last
Yeah.
game Rockstar released was Red Dead 2 in 2018. I want to see if it's like it looks just as good, if not better, because Red Dead 2 is still a looker till this day. In photorealism, I think that game is still top of the line, even with everything else that has come out. Even with it on consoles not being 60 frames, it doesn't really matter because it was just that well made. So, and I want to see if it's true that they're like making the single player experience of that game more intertwined with with the online portion of things. That's something that I'm like curious and worried about. But who knows? It's like it's Rockstar. And what's so funny is that in between GTA 5 and this game coming out, the writer who left the company like 3 years ago, I think it was Dan. It's one of the Hauser brothers. He had literally said, "It's like we've been trying to figure out where we go with with GTA, and you guys know how weird love lampooning what's been happening in society." And they literally said, because this was during the Trump years, they're like, "We have no idea how we can lampoon this." It's like
Hmm.
it's an ever living satire, and that's what's gonna be fun if they're able to lampoon that because I've been doing the hashtag kind of like safe satire because I was like
Hmm.
every time I was like seeing these headlines not from the Onion or not from like a Babylon Bee or something, be like real life headlines, be like, how is this real? How is this happening? How is this like it's crazy. It feels like we've been both gaslit into thinking that crazy is the new normal, and I'm really curious to see how they tackle it. If they tackle it at all, we'll find out in a month. Maybe a Keeley's thing. This will be so funny though. If they debuted the trailer of it at the Game Awards. The thing is that Rockstar is so big as a company, they don't need anyone. Like their tweet announced, literally the tweet that followed up the Jason Schreier report was the most liked and retweeted tweet of all time in 24 hours. It's like that's how big Grand Theft Auto is. So
Hmm.
it's like they don't need anyone. But it would be funny if they debuted the trailer. If Keighley managed to convince Take Two to be like, let me give the trailer, especially because do you remember Gamescom Keighley's thing at the beginning of that show? Yeah, that he had another Bill Clinton moment, like at right at the very beginning. That someone stormed the stage and be like, "Where's GTA 6? Bill Clinton wants to know where's GTA 6 or something like that." Yep. There was this idiot. So it would be funny that he finally got the trailer or that. So who knows with Keighley? But hey, yeah, the Game Awards is coming soon, and the nominees are next Monday. We'll definitely talk about those nominees when they go live. He hasn't said anything about increasing the actual nominee list. There's going to be a bloodbath if he doesn't do that. So. Story number 2, Paul. This broke today, and people had it in secret, and reviews came out of this thing. Steam Deck OLED announced. Story by Marcus Stewart. Valve has unveiled its first upgraded iteration of the Steam Deck. Dubbed simply the Steam Deck OLED, the new handheld features several technical and form factor improvements, and it goes on sale next week. As the name implies, the device boasts an HDR OLED screen to produce more vibrant colors. It also boasts a larger battery for an increased charge, 30-50% more battery life depending on the game, with Valve pointing out that the OLED screen consumes less power. The device also includes an updated and more efficient AMD APU and Wi-Fi 6E, resulting in downloads up to 3 times faster for increased bandwidth and lower latency. Steam Deck OLED also runs cooler thanks to its bigger fan and improved thermals. Overall, the device is 5% lighter than the original model. Steam Deck OLED becomes available on November 16th. It comes in 3 models based on storage and add-ons, including one limited edition variant featuring a different color scheme. Here's a breakdown of the specs and price of each one. The 512GB OLED is $549, and it comes with 512GB of NVMe SSD storage, and a 1280x800 OLED display, a 7.4-inch diagonal display size, and all the things that we mentioned before. And then there's also a 1TB OLED model that's going to be $649 with that. And also comes with a carrying case with removable liner, Steam Profile Bundle, an exclusive Start a Movie, and an exclusive virtual keyboard theme. And there's also a limited edition 1TB OLED that's $679, only available in the US and Canada. That includes basically everything else plus the color. So once it launches, Steam Deck OLED will become the default Steam Deck moving forward, as Valve is phasing out the original LCD models. As such, the first generation Steam Decks have been permanently discounted. $349 for the 64GB LCD, $399 for the 256GB LCD, and $449 for the 512GB LCD. These models will be available until they are out of stock. Insert Spider-Man meme. I tell you, Paul, it's like, I have never had someone like Sebastian sell me on a Steam Deck as hard as he has. He absolutely adores that damn thing. And also because he's been telling me how perfect it has been for... he gets a lot of review code from indies and all of that. And what is the best kind of device to play an indie title? Handheld. And what and what the Steam Deck does. And all of, I was seeing a former IGN person called Zachary Ryan. He said that he bought a Steam Deck last week, and right now he's inconsolable. Because like I feel that pain. Imagine you just get this and then immediately, but that's always usually how it goes. You buy something, then immediately something better gets released afterwards. And I feel personally that I waited long enough that now that I have this kind of like in my limelight, there's so much soul searching I have to do this holiday season, because I know like over at Season Gaming we've been getting a lot of PC codes for reviews, and Steve, the guy that like hooks me up with those codes, whenever he gets codes he reviews it on his Steam Deck. Those games work so well there that I'm like, yeah, it's like it's gotten to the point where I gotta hear about what Nintendo does next this coming year, because that's supposedly when we should be hearing hardware, despite what they're saying. We're gonna read that later, but yeah, it's like you know what makes me happy? Getting this remodel. I'm like, okay, I'm glad Valve has found. They seem that they're happy with where the things are. That they're still gonna keep supporting the Steam Deck. That has always been my worry, because they tried Steam machines back in 2013 and that didn't work. That's always kind of like my fear of committing to a new platform without knowing if they're like really in it. So this to me tells me they're in it, like that they're committed and that this is gonna be a viable platform. So, Prices are still too expensive for my taste, but
yeah, I was gonna say just for the price of the fact that the discounts are there are great. The problem is that like the 64 gigabyte LCD, what are you going to be able to put on there realistically besides indie games?
So here's the thing: they're easily upgradable. You can put a bunch of like SD sticks, like the memory.
So you can keep adding more. Okay, well that's cool. I will give them that much at least. Man, it's nice. There's no way to connect a Steam Deck to a larger display, is there?
No, you can. It's like a Switch. Yeah.
Shoot.
You can make it its own computer, and you can make it its own computer also. That's what's so insane. Is like that it also it comes in with like a Windows OS or something like that. It makes it also its own PC, so it's even more versatile than a Switch. I tell you, Sebastian was like selling me hard. Like he showed me the dock, the things that he could add. Like he even has like a dock that then you can add like some extra RAM in it that even improves the performance of games when you dock it into a TV. It's like there's like a level of modularity to this device that is super impressive. Like,
shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of awesome, honestly.
Yeah, I tell you. So that doesn't sound like
this might be like a next Christmas thing.
Yes. No, that's
really the case.
No, it's looking like that for me too. Because it's a pretty impressive machine, and also so super compatible with so many emulators. Sebastian showed me the Dolphin emulator that I've been using to play the old Spider-Man games. It works there. He was playing Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, the emulated with the Dolphin emulator that gives you like high resolutions and like stable frame rates because of the emulation and all that. And he showed it to me, and he showed me changing two games at the same time, kind of like if it was the quick resume of the Xbox. I'm like, God damn it, because there is a Steam Deck at my Radio Shack that's like 5 minutes away from me. It's $1,100. Fuck them. I am not getting that at that price. But it's like, I've seen it. I tell it all. It's like big. It's like, it's really, really, it looks chunky. Really, yeah. Yeah, you should look at the screenshot that I sent us in our chat with him that Gene Park got the PlayStation Portal to like compare the sizes. So you can go see.
I saw that actually.
Yeah, so it's like, it's you that I think like because small screens are like kind of screw you now, right? If you play like on handheld, it's like this has a big screen. Like the Steam Deck does have a big screen.
I do like that.
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah. Let us all searching
back. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Because then I would like just like we did with every system. Like I would be willing to do those splits to try to get especially if we can get code easier. Especially because Steve tells me PC is the easiest way to get codes. Because it's like those are infinite. Console ones are like more stingy. So, yeah, Steam Deck announced. I'm glad because this is what I wait. This is what I waited. This is what tells me they're committed, and I'm glad that they're committed to continuing this platform because I hate buying into a new platform that doesn't like continue because then it's just a waste of money. So,
yeah.
Story number 3. By Whistle LeBlanc. Fortnite had its biggest day ever with 44 million players thanks to Throwback OG Season. Epic Games launched Fortnite Battle Royale in 2017, and if you followed the game back then, you likely know that every other week there was news that Fortnite had its biggest day ever in terms of player count and other impressive metrics. Now, more than 6 years later, Fortnite has had its biggest day ever again, bringing in 44.7 million players and 102 million hours of play on Saturday, November 4th. Epic Games tweeted this record over the weekend, calling it the biggest day in Fortnite's history before thanking Fortnite and OG players. As for why, Epic doesn't list a specific reason, but it's pretty clear it's because of the new season itself. Dubbed Season OG, a short 1 month long season of Fortnite, brings players back to the Chapter 1 map for some throwback Battle Royale nostalgia. Plus, near weekly updates will take players on a journey from Chapter 1 Season 5 all the way to Chapter 1 Season X. So it's like, I noticed this because like we had just heard recently that Epic laid off like 900 people because Fortnite had just like had been like losing steam. It's so funny that they pulled the nostalgia card and look at 44 million players concurrently playing. That's insane. Think about how many people like having a service, how many like different like sessions happening with everyone playing the original map that hasn't been there since they blew it up in like late 2019 in that legendary event that shut off the game for like 3 days. And even saw news of kids breaking their TVs because they couldn't play Fortnite. I'll never forget that for as long as I live. Like that happened when I went to LA in 2019, around the time that Modern Warfare 2019 came out that you reviewed. So I do remember that a lot. So it's like Fortnite is still big, and I hate it because it's people pursue this thing. That's why like we had the live service nightmare that we live in because of this. People, you're never gonna be as big as this game. This is the game that caught lightning. So
Yep. It is. There's no way anybody is going to, not for a little while, actually like reach that point. I think it's got to be. It's something else has to build to it, and Fortnite has to finally tip the scales back. Because, I mean, good for them that they were able to manage to pull people back, and they had that panic button that they clearly just mashed because things were struggling. But I don't know, the whole free-to-play multiplayer thing really started to grate on me throughout the course of like Apex Legends and a lot of these others. I mean, Halo Infinite is still trying to pass stuff off like that because Fortnite proved it worked. So just for that side of it, really disagree and sad about it, but at the same time it's like good for them.
Yeah, it's a good for them, but it's like I will always blame Fortnite for setting a precedent that in order for you to have a successful multiplayer nowadays, you have to plan weeks of content where you gotta keep players engaged from week to week to week to week, like keeping like players stringing along because your game is always changing and all that. And it proved to be an unsustainable model that even them accepted that was not sustainable because it led to endless crunch, tons of money that obviously they had because they had all the brand deals and all the people that they had. But it's like they're the ones that I blame for the fact that it made the live service model this kind of like treadmill, this weekly treadmill that even games like Destiny eventually adopted. And we see what's happening with Destiny right now, that even though right now they had a really good pop at the end of the season, but that got overshadowed over the fact of what happened with Bungie. We talked about last week with the layoff apocalypse that studios suffered, and like how that like really killed a bunch of morale, even though the game's still like it's seeing some good content even after that showed, man, they were doing something at least with this season. But it's like this is what Fortnite created, that unsustainability. And now it's like people think in their minds that you cannot just release a multiplayer, that it has to be free to play, it has to have it has to come with a battle pass, it has to like have like events, it keep you kind of like in that treadmill. Is just exhausting. It's like you cannot have many games that do that at the same time. You can only have one, and many people found Fortnite as their one. Just try to do something different and you'll be successful, like what Blizzard's doing. Story number 4, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred expansion brings players to a lush jungle biome late next year. Story by Wesley LeBlanc. Blizzard Entertainment has revealed that the first expansion for Diablo 4 is called Vessel of Hatred, and it hits the game late next year, so around this time, in 2024. The Diablo team revealed this news over the weekend during BlizzCon 2023, which is also where we learned about 3 new World of Warcraft expansions and 3 new Overwatch 2 heroes coming to the game. During BlizzCon 2023, Blizzard kept Vessel of Hatred details light, stating it will share more details next summer. As we're about to expect, it features a campaign and continues the dark tale that began in Diablo 4. Vessel of Hatred brings players back to learn the fate of the primeval Mephisto and his demonic plans for Sanctuary, a press release reads. Travel to the lush jungles known by the locals as Nahantu. Blizzard says Vessel of Hatred will allow players to traverse an exotic new region, vanquish new evils, and perhaps most excitingly, explore fresh ways to kill demons and loot chests with a completely new class never before seen in the Diablo universe. And that's all Blizzard shared about Vessel of Hatred. Diablo 4's first expansion is due out in late 2024. I tell you because we didn't talk about the games that we've been playing. I did go back to Diablo 4. I skipped Season 1 on the basically on the heels of hearing that you needed to start a new character to play that season, and hearing that the content of that season just wasn't up to par, especially with the campaign. So I was like, yeah, it's like I had my fill. But then I heard enough good seasons about the vampire-themed Season 2 that I launched a few weeks ago. And the fixes they made, of quality of life fixes, like finally like gems that you had to insert into different loot, is no longer in your inventory taking space. They added like an extra space to separate the things. XP gains like got quadrupled significantly, that now like
I did hear that.
players can finally reach to level 100 without feeling like they're wasting their time, or like feel like the game is just sucking them dry. They added end game Uber bosses beyond Lilith that, depending on how you do the season and you coordinate with your friends, like you can coordinate to do those like Uber bosses that give you even better loot. So there's like an actual reason to like level up characters and pursue like end game builds and things like that. It's like they are doing the work. It's like they decided to make this Diablo game like a more ongoing thing, but I do like how they're pursuing their seasonal model, because it's like they're not gatekeeping people week to week. Apparently you can do a bunch of that stuff immediately, as much as you want, or as little as you want. It's like much different than what you see from Destiny, that it's like every week you gotta do it every week. So it's like they did come to play. Diablo 4 launch version was great. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. It was like,
Yeah.
The first season definitely lost people. Season 2 like brought them back, but they were ready. And you know what I appreciate from them is like they immediately like apologized. They didn't wait to. They it's not like the Bungie way that they waited until things are real bad to do like a live stream to say what they're gonna do. It's like they immediately saw that things weren't going their way. They reversed course immediately. And I was talking with Travis, who is a live service expert in that field. Is like, he knows that these guys came to play and they build their teams to be able to like respond quickly. What you need in live, like you kind of need if you're pursuing like a live game. And I think they're doing it even healthier, like in a healthy way, because it's like people tell me they don't feel like they're playing a full-time job playing Diablo. Diablo's pretty relaxed. In like in like it's in its and that's kind of what I appreciate. Is like when I play Diablo, it's like it's very easy to just lay back and just see the madness happening. Like I love the sorcerer that I started playing as. It's like, ooh, a pyromancer sorcerer. This feels really nice.
It's almost like the less active you have to be, like depending on the class, apparently, because some people really vibe with certain ones, but like I know the necromancer was so good at being AFK that you could just kind of sit there, and I started like my eyes were glazing over after a while. So I think there needs to be some kind of balance. But let me I'm getting into the weeds on that one.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Diablo so quickly really tried, I do appreciate. I still think their microtransactions are extremely
horrible.
predatory.
Microtransactions are horrible. Yeah. Their their season pass is decent. It's cheaper than Destiny's, because Destiny like upped the price, and you can earn some decent looking like armor from the season pass. It's the free players that kind of get screwed, and the very cool looking armor is like behind really expensive prices. It's like it's actually absolutely horrendous, the pricing, but there's still things that you can do without having to buy that. That's just in the purchase, and it's just kind of it's gross seeing it. But at least the gameplay loop of being able to do stuff and get at least some armor and things like that is still left intact. They were able to kind of separate both lanes in a way. But it would be much better if a lot of that cool looking stuff wasn't just relegated to $65 purchases. I saw one recently. It's like, oof.
It's not great, that's for sure. As far as the rest of it goes, the seasonal content seemed interesting with the whole vampire thing. It's after you load in though, I had trouble like finding it, because there were like event spaces where there's vampire stuff going on. I fought stuff, and then I was going off to
there are quests. There were like blue dots that were basically the quests.
Okay,
kind of like it wasn't. That's why you need them.
Because I also explain to me also, if you do side quests and you skip the main quest and you create a seasonal character, do you get the opportunity to redo any of those side quests from the main game?
No.
So it's just
seasonal.
Content.
Yeah, it's just seasonal content. Yeah.
Got it. I just wasn't sure how that blend actually worked, because I've never like seen it in action. Because just
that was my first. Yeah, that was my first time trying it too. So. But it's like you create that new character, immediately skip the campaign, and it tells you, it's like, do you want to go to like the Eternal Realm or kind of like the Seasonal Realm? Eternal Realm is where it's where you take a character after you're done with the season to kind of save it for if you want to continue that character when the next expansion comes in. That's kind of it's like you all go into like a Valhalla. It's like you put your character into like a Valhalla, being ready for like the next battle against evil. So that's kind of like the idea of like the Eternal Realm. So. When I saw how quickly the XP gains were from a seasonal character, I changed my tune, because it's like I rather, if I'm gonna play an old character, I'd rather do it like this instead of the campaign, because the campaign is kind of long. So
Yeah. Normally, like, because the campaign was like how you got your big XP boosts and stuff, so you didn't want to skip it. But now it seems a little more realistic. So I don't know. We'll see if I'm getting tired of other things, or if we eventually cave on certain other items. We'll see how that goes. But I might.
I
be
have it
going back to the
installed. I
game.
have it installed because I realized that yeah, it's like I'm still like in my need of a Destiny. You know, a I love my single player games, but I also need a live game to just kind of retreat to, for just like mind wipe, or just kind of I need chill to kill time. And Diablo reminded me, he said, yeah, Diablo's a good one for that. Right now that
Yeah.
we're kind of like in this limbo of like games are done. So, and when you're ready, I'm ready. I have it installed because I have space for that game.
I've got it installed. So we'll see, maybe.
Yeah. So, and also just to mention, like, while them releasing this expansion until November of next year, despite the game launching in June, there's something that I was talking with Travis about also, because he also made the point. Live service games that feel the need to release a big piece of content every 12 months have proven that they don't work. Destiny showed that clearly with Lightfall. And the season and the expansions that worked for them were the ones that got more than 12 months of development, i.e. Witch Queen. So,
Yeah. I will say, it's almost a shame hearing about the expansion so far away, because I'm like, I would like to play all of this now, plus the new character, please, not a year from
yeah.
now.
But that's the thing,
But
like, hearing this and seeing how good season 2 is for what it is, like, their seasonal content will be able to carry them, like, to until like this expansion. Like, if the seasonal stuff was bad, like some Destiny stuff here, and you hear that expansion so far away, then you can get worried. But that's not like the state of Diablo. I feel like Diablo 4 is in a shockingly good state currently, and how quickly they reverse course after downward a downward feeling trajectory of season 1. So, which they said, of course, it was that because they developed that season next to the main game, so the main game got a lot of the focus. But they started like work of season 2 near the end of them building both the main game and season 1. So it's like they're kind of like ahead of the curve. So yeah, can't wait to hear more. But yeah, Diablo 4, I had dropped it, but it was like I've been surprised. Like, it's like it reminds me why Diablo exposed Destiny for me this year. It reminded me that. So, story number 5. We have more layoffs, Paul. So, story by Charles Harty over at Game Informer. Ubisoft lays off over 100 employees. Today, Ubisoft is the latest developer to join 2023's wave of layoffs. According to IGN, the company laid off a total of 124 employees. 98 of them were based in Canada, which IGN calculates as roughly 2% of the company's Canadian workforce. The cuts including administrative and IT workers, some of whom were employed at the Hybrid BFX Studio, a company that has worked on shows like Ahsoka and The Mandalorian. These are not decisions taken lightly, and we're providing comprehensive support for our colleagues who will be leaving Ubisoft during this transition, the company told both IGN and Kotaku. We also want to share our utmost gratitude and respect for their many contributions to the company. This restructuring does not affect our production teams. Another quote obtained by Kotaku claims that the layoffs are to allow Ubisoft to optimize its resources to be more sustainable in the long term. This news comes after a year of several big Ubisoft releases, including Assassin's Creed Mirage, The Crew Motorfest, and Just Dance 2024. But that's in spite of the fact that they canceled several games this year and delayed Skull and Bones again. Unrest of the company has been ongoing as well. Back in September, IGN reported widespread frustration after employees were suddenly called to return to in-person working conditions. Ubisoft now joins Bungie, Media Molecule, Telltale Games, Team 17, Epic Games, Naughty Dog, Microsoft, and more on the unfortunately long list of companies that have laid people off in the past year. It's like it's nuts, Paul. So around when the Bungie layoffs from last week happened, it was like people were telling us there's like 6,000 people that have been laid off. Now add more to this. It's like
it's just another sad example of everything that we've been talking about, honestly, and I don't even want to keep retreading it and giving them more airtime, besides the fact that, hey guys, this is bad, executives stop doing this, and also maybe, I don't know, hire people that have better financial knowledge and not just operate on, oh, we might get billions of dollars, so let's do it.
Yeah. And it's like it almost feels like a fad at this point, that it feels like everyone feels like they need to lay off anyone just for profit margins, because that's kind of like usually how that has gone. It's like we haven't gotten like from the layoffs that we have received. It's been rare to hear ones that they are laying off because they completely missed, like they fail on their financials. It's been more painful seeing like a lot of the same the people I say like we had record profits this year. That's when they also announced like the workforce reduction. It's like that's just the I tell you, it's like it is time for game unions. The SAG-AFTRA finally like finalized their union. They fought tooth and nail to get like a really good deal, and it's time for game developers to get some protection because it's like at this point it's like it's just clear that it's blatant greed that is leading to these layoffs. There is no need for them. Like when you're making that much money. Obviously, there's been also kind of like because this has hit all other sectors that the insufferable growth that happened during the pandemic when everyone was working from home and all that. That those reductions were kind of the reductions that have happened to counteract all that growth that happened during that time. Is like readjusting a bunch of stuff that it's understandable, but it still sucks. But I don't feel these are all just COVID like readjustments. I don't feel like so. Yeah, so again, my heart goes for all these layoffs that are happening. It's just so sad. It's like
Yeah.
but it is so funny that the layoffs that happened that really created a very sizable like cataclysmic feeling of those happened were the Bungie layoffs. Do you see that? It's like that created such a like huge commotion more than like any other layoffs that happened.
I think because nobody really expected it from Bungie, because even though the writing was kind of on the wall in some places, you kind of hoped that they were pulling it together. And even the fact that everybody jumped on like blaming Sony because they couldn't possibly believe that Bungie caused it. And I think that alone says a lot about how people viewed Bungie as like the perpetual underdog for things, and then didn't realize along the way they were no longer the underdog.
Exactly. Yeah, and and I feel it's Bungie is one of the more forward-facing companies that exist. Look how like they put the developers front and center when they do showcases and all that. So and the This Week at Bungie's that happen where you hear from them a lot. So it's like I think it's because a lot of people feel more connected to that studio than most studios. Like you don't get a This Week at Ubisoft. Here is the director gonna tell you something or things like that. It's like it's very rare. So I think that's why like those Bungie layoffs like really hit hard. Especially like some of the people that got let go, like Salvatore was like, of all people, is this the guy that you let go? So even though there's still a lot of people working on the game, as people saw that the people that remained there like launching the final few steps for this season that already teased the next season of The Wish. So it's like there's still a lot of people working there, but it was really interesting seeing that, considering how many layoffs have been happening with just this year alone. How that one got more limelight than usual. So now, Paul, we move over to a bunch of Nintendo news. So this was our sixth story, but I divided it in A, B, C, and D. Story letter A. Nintendo announces live-action Zelda movie. Story by Brian Shea from Game Informer. Nintendo and Arad Productions Incorporated have announced the start of development on a live-action The Legend of Zelda movie. The movie will see Nintendo legend and Zelda creator Shigeru Miyamoto return to the role of producer following the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was released earlier this year. He is joined in the producer role by Avi Arad, who has produced films like 2004's Spider-Man 2, 2008's Iron Man, and 2023's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. By the way, people, he also produced Morbius. Arad has also produced a couple of video game adaptations, including Uncharted in 2022 and Borderlands, which is slated for a 2024 release. Wes Ball, who directed the Maze Runner movies as well as the upcoming Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, has signed on to direct the film. The movie will be co-financed by Nintendo and Sony Pictures Entertainment, with more than 50% being handled by Nintendo, with the theatrical distribution being handled by Sony Pictures Entertainment. This announcement follows the runaway success of Nintendo Universal's The Super Mario Bros. Movie, which grossed more than $1.3 billion at the worldwide box office. In March, Miyamoto was asked if he had any other Nintendo franchises he'd like to see make this jump to the silver screen through a film adaptation. You probably know that we have Nintendo Pictures now as a group, he said. Whenever we create games, that's one form of content, and when we create animation, that's another form of content. And we want to continue to expand the amount of content that we can produce. In terms of announcing or sharing anything, I'll try to hold off until there's something really good and enjoyable. So, there's probably nothing to announce in the near future, so I ask you to put all your focus on this movie currently. No additional information, including the release window for the live-action Legend of Zelda movie, is available at this time. Paul, this when it was announced, like, okay, interesting, but kind of like the string of like announced it, like that Game Awards tweet that announced it was like, this is such a cursed sentence, like seeing all these things like working together. It's like Legend of Zelda live action movie made by Sony, by the like co-produced by the guy that also worked on Morbius and directed by the Maze Runner guy. And to me, it was so funny. It's like,
Yeah.
Avi Arad, just that name alone, like, sends shivers down the spine of so many people. Not many people will know many who produces certain movies. They will know directors, but the name Avi Arad, like, really sends the the spidey senses tingling for so many people. And I was having a ball 2 nights ago, like, reading a bunch of tweets. Do you get to catch up on all the tweets that I posted in our chat?
I'm pretty sure I've caught up as much as I needed to on
Yeah.
as much of the context as what's
Uh-huh.
going on, because the fact that we're finally getting like a live action Legend of Zelda, which reminds me, we're still getting an animated one that's completely separate from this, right? That was confirmed already?
I don't think it's ever been confirmed.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe they went with the live action route and not just making a decent animated Legend of Zelda.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so, well, the fact that we have to live with that is going to be something, but already, like, the memes flying out of it, I forgot who Avi Arad was, but the knowledge of, like, it seems like he is the equivalent of a complete coin flip.
Yeah.
And good for him for clearly making what he wants and just going for it and somehow still getting projects left and right.
And not only that, think about it, Paul. He founded Marvel Studios, like
Yeah.
that eventually like got acquired by
didn't
Disney.
realize
Yeah,
that.
that's how deep like the tendrils of Avi Arad is. It's kind of like a filmmaker that has produced so many movies, like including like going all the way back to the Raimi trilogy, and also a lot of those early Marvel movies that were from Sony and Fox. That there were a couple good ones there, but also a couple really bad ones too. But then at the same time, then his name is like next to like big successes. Like recently with the Spider-Verse movies, yeah, that was him. But he also gave us the 2 Venom movies and Morbius. So it's like, it really is like Russian roulette with this guy. You never know which was gonna be the bullet that's gonna kill you with like a bad movie. So the coin flip means that this could either be good or this could be bad. That's what makes it so funny. And just kind of like how in the universe are Nintendo and Sony working together in a Zelda movie? It's like, that to me is like wild. That's just so wild. Even though obviously Sony PlayStation and Sony Pictures, though under Sony Corp, is like, it's still different enough. There's just like the optics of that makes it funnier. That's how they finally work together again after Sony and Nintendo's initial partnership ended in such sour grapes, with Nintendo like completely like going behind Sony's back to work with someone else to do like this. That then Sony was like, screw you, we're gonna make our own console. And like, look what happened. That's how the PlayStation was born. So that's just, it's just so funny how it came back to that. So I can't wait, Paul. I can't wait to see like who they cast. The thing is, it being Sony Pictures and this being Avi Arad, Tom Holland is 70% like guaranteed to be able to being offered this role.
I hate that he's just going to get that. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate him as an actor, but gosh, please get somebody else to play Link.
Yeah.
Please. Somebody said it's like, I want complete unknowns for this. I don't want anybody I've ever seen in my life. I want somebody who is just going to live and breathe this. I mean, do the One Piece thing. You get these people who embody the characters that you've just never seen in anything else. But I don't know what I'm gonna think about this. I hope I like it, but I've lately really started souring on live action anything, so we're gonna see how that plays out.
Yeah. I am morbidly curious. The first trailer of this thing for Whenever It Happens has become like my most anticipated thing, regardless of how good or bad it is. I just kind of want to see what that looks like. So, staying on the Nintendo train now with Story B from story number 6. Also by Wesley LeBlanc. Nintendo Switch surpasses 132 million units sold, alongside Great Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4 results. The Switch continues to inch closer to becoming Nintendo's best-selling hardware ever, as it has now surpassed 132 million units sold. It did so thanks to great software sales for new first-party games released this year, like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4. This news comes from Nintendo's fiscal year 2024 second quarter financial results, which ended September 30. In it, we learned the Switch has officially reached the 132.46 million units sold, getting it closer to a company's best-selling hardware, the Nintendo DS, at 154.2 million units sold. The only other console above the DS overall is the PlayStation 2, at roughly 158 million units sold. It's possible the Switch reaches the DS number, assuming a new-gen console doesn't end sales of the hardware. And considering Nintendo said in February of last year that it's only halfway through its life cycle, it seems likely like the company will continue to support it long after the rumored new-gen hardware is released. Nintendo's latest financial report also reveals that Tears of the Kingdom has reached 19.5 million units sold, with Pikmin 4 at 2.61 million units sold, making it the best-selling game in the series. In addition, the Super Mario Bros. Movie release in April had a positive impact on sales on Mario-related titles. Nintendo writes in its results, sales of other titles also continued to grow steadily, bringing the total number of million-seller titles during this period to 16, including titles from other software publications. Unit sales for the entire Switch family of consoles, including the OLED model and Switch Lite, are up 2.4% year over year at 6.84 million units. That breaks down to 1.25 million standard Switch units, 4.69 million OLED units, and 0.9 million Switch Lite consoles. By the way, Paul is like, the OLED is the more expensive one, and that's the one that's selling more. That's nuts. Total software sales are up 1.8% year over year to 97.08 million units. Digital sales accounted for 50.2% of total software sales, and digital sales are up 15.8% year over year. Despite rumors of a next-gen console from Nintendo on the horizon, it seems the Switch isn't slowing down. And next quarter sales are likely to see a big boost thanks to the recently released Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which immediately follow up with Story C from Story number 6. Nintendo reveals Super Mario Bros. Wonder is fastest selling game in the series. Yesterday, we learned that Nintendo Switch has surpassed 132 million units sold on the heels of great results from recent first-party releases like Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4. Now, Nintendo has revealed that its latest first-party release, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, is the fastest-selling game in the Super Mario Bros. Series. It achieved the record after selling more than 4.3 million units in 2 weeks. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which was released worldwide on October 20, achieved global cumulative sales of 4.3 million units within the first 2 weeks. Nintendo's financial briefing reads, this makes it the fastest-selling Super Mario-related title. Super Mario-related titles also tend to sell consistently over a long period of time. We anticipate this title will be an appealing choice for consumers during the upcoming holiday season and will continue to sell next year onwards as well. Switch is about to be 7 years old in the hardware market, Paul, and it's not slowing. In fact, it's growing bigger. It's insane, this performance of this damn machine. And machine we only play 2 or 3 times a year.
There's no way that it doesn't overtake the DS with the way that it is, the speed that it is. The fact that they're saying it's only halfway through, part of me doesn't really believe that, but at the same time, they're going to... I mean, if they do finally put out that Switch 2, it's still going to be the Switch, I guess.
Yeah.
Just like a more powerful version of it. I don't think they're going to pull that new 3DS thing again. They tried that, and that flopped so hard on them. Yes. I think there was like, what, 4 games that they ever made that were only available on it. There's no way. So yeah, I think they learned their lesson with that. It's just going to be a continuation, more power, whatever, and then the sales will just keep just blowing dams, blowing through walls and blowing through records.
Yeah, it's wild because, but them say that it's halfway through his life cycle. I kind of believe it because there's been, think about it this way, like for example, using the PlayStation as an example, like when the PS3 came out, the PS2 wasn't phased out. It took years for that to happen. When the PS4 came out, also the PS3 took a while for that to be phased out. PS4 similarly. So it's like, I do believe that they also see that there are people are going to remain there. There's so many people that take a while to like adopt the new one, especially because when the new one comes out, that's when people get like to the mindset. It's like, oh look, I waited enough. Now I can buy this and look all this back catalog that I have here, that I can like consume to my own will. So I do believe it's gonna like overtake because And depends on the price of whatever the new one is. To me, it's wild that the OLED, which is $50 more expensive than the normal Switch, is the best-selling unit. That tells you a lot. It should be the other way. That the Switch Lite should be the best-selling one for being cheaper. One would think. But no.
I mean, it was true for the 2DS. So it almost makes sense to think that it would 100% be that way. But I don't know, maybe the Switch Lite is either there's not as many being made for it, / the fact that it can't connect to the dock at all.
Yeah, it's just a handheld.
I think that's a really rough thing to pass off to a family that really needs both of those. The versatility is too needed, I think, and that was a bad move for them to not allow that at all.
Yeah, they kind of did that because they also still had a normal unit like that still did the hybrid thing. So
I mean, for a family who's only going to buy one of those, it's
you gotta get the normal one.
Yeah.
In fact, like I know anecdotally, like where the Switch Lite has worked well is that people, families buy a normal one for like the living room, and then they buy a Lite to kind of like just keep like passing around or like for traveling and all that. It's like the Switch Lite has become a really good second Switch for a family, for like siblings and things like that. So
yeah,
but I think it's more the OLED. It would appear that even despite the $50 differential, like I've seen at the stores, it's like you don't see more OLEDs than normals. They're equally like on shelves, like the normal Switch and the OLED Switch. The fact that people are leaning towards the OLED does say a lot about the power of the Switch and like the idea of like the better screen, the bigger and better, like brighter, more colorful screen that is the OLED versus an LCD screen from our normal Switch. That is clearly it's like people are willing to like spend $50 more late in the life cycle for not much performance, like not any performance gains. That's what's wild. It's like the OLED Switch is not more powerful than the normal one. It's not like a Switch Pro like we thought it would be back in the day when we had been hearing the rumors, and it's still selling more. It's like the power of the Switch is insane. It's like it has buckled any conventional wisdom. Do you see the picture that I sent in our chat about kind of like the Switch effect, about how the Switch has like increased the sales of franchises like almost like by default immediately? Like Smash and Zelda have always been like talked about a lot, but they've never been big sellers, but now they are. Kirby now a big seller, Pikmin now a big seller. It's like these franchises that people were like, yeah, these franchises are they do nothing, now they do stuff on the Switch. The Switch power is insane, and it's even more insane for a system that I barely play during the year. It just goes to show you, just they really like they struck something. They absolutely struck on something. And this Mario game, selling 4.3 million units initially, that's still pretty impressive. The fact that now the other game that launched at the same time sold more immediately, that's also impressive for the other side, considering like the power of the Switch. But this game's gonna sell more like over time. We're already kind of seeing it like in week-to-week sales. As we're talking about Spider-Man over in the UK. Spider-Man 2 debuted at number 1, and now it's been number 3 for like 2 weeks. And Mario debuted at number 2, and it's been number 1 since then. So that's kind of like where I'm seeing, like, yeah, like they say, it's like Mario games sell consistently over a long period of time. With the new people that buy systems also, they always buy a Mario game. Wonder being like that, it's like this thing got legs, and I'm happy because it's like I'd rather this be the 2D Mario that people play rather than New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe Edition. So as a 2D, it's a better representation of that, and it's a wonderful game. So, and the final Nintendo story of this, Paul, Story D from story number 6 by Wesley LeBlanc. Nintendo hints it will continue extensive Switch support even after new-gen hardware release. Nintendo isn't quite ready to say goodbye to the Switch, its second best-selling console ever. According to a new financial briefing from the company, it plans to support the Switch seemingly long after the release of rumored next-gen hardware expected to launch next year. It's been a big week for Nintendo, with the company revealing the Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the fastest-selling Super Mario game in the series, and that a live-action Legend of Zelda movie is on the way. Crazy all this news broke this week. We also learned yesterday the Switch has surpassed 132 million units sold on the heels of great results from Zelda and Pikmin. Now Nintendo has pulled back the curtain a bit on its approach to the Switch platform moving forward. Nintendo Switch will be entering its 8th year in March 2024, the financial briefing reads. We will continue to release new titles and content for Nintendo Switch without being bound by the traditional concept of the platform lifecycle. That last line above indicates Nintendo might continue to support the Switch even after the release of its next console. This isn't too surprising considering the Switch has sold so well, continues to sell well each financial quarter, and has a string of great releases in its future, including a remake of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, which we're totally getting, Paul. That game is fantastic, I tell you. Nintendo goes on to say that it would like to continue to see many consumers play Nintendo Switch and to maintain our business momentum. Sunsetting the Switch a second early would likely end that momentum, and Nintendo seems highly aware of that. Elsewhere in the financial briefing, Nintendo reveals over 330 million Nintendo accounts have been created as of September 2023, noting that even in regions where Nintendo Switch is not sold, our mobile applications have brought the Nintendo account system to a wide range of users around the world. It says it will strive to further spread Nintendo account and grow it into a vital business foundation for Nintendo heading into the future. Within those 330 million Nintendo accounts, 38 million members have subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online, and 117 million users play their Switch annually, highlighting the Switch's legs as it enters its 8th year on the market. 117 million users play their Switch annually. That's insane. If you think about it, it's like 132 million Switches, 117 play them like often. The attach rates and kind of like how that balances out is like, the Switch is an insane system. It absolutely is.
It just confirms everything that we keep talking about it, because there was that brief moment where you're like, man, the Switch is so underpowered, there's not enough stuff for it, but it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all for so many people.
Doesn't adhere to rules that we give.
Exactly. It's like, and everyone that cares so much about power, that's perpetually online talk, Paul. That just is. It's like the numbers speak for themselves. If that mattered, this thing would be like in the trash fire. If that mattered, but it's not. So, and Nintendo again proving conventional wisdom wrong, and more like proving what general audiences really think, what they care more. They care more about fun. They care more about like quirkiness. They care more about like interesting stuff, and they care about the ability of taking their system on the go. They care more about that than a super expensive machine that can play at 4K 60 frames. As nice as that is. So, but it's like, it just goes to show, like, their approach works. And glad the other systems have different approaches, because that works for them too. That is healthy. And I'm glad that they're all healthy. So, now we're leaving Nintendo news behind to move to story number 7, Paul, because there's a couple stories for this about Mass Effect 5, tentatively called.
Here we go.
Yeah, so new Mass Effect 5 trailer teases original trilogy Andromeda and maybe a new protagonist. Story by Wesley LeBlanc from Game Informer. BioWare, the developer behind EA's Dragon Age and Mass Effect franchises, has released a new trailer for its next Mass Effect game, and it teases a connection to the original trilogy and the Andromeda sequel, and maybe even a new protagonist. Since yesterday was 2 days ago was November 7th, known as N7 Day in the Mass Effect community, as a reference to the N7 Systems Alliance military in the series, BioWare launched a countdown on a special Mass Effect Epsilon webpage. A decoded message says the following on the site now. Access code Epsilon. Access code accepted. Secondary encryption detected. BJBS B1 XXXS XXXXX. Andromeda distress signal detected. Year sent redacted. Audio transcript. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human, redacted. As you can see, this transcription mentions a distress signal from the Andromeda Galaxy, which was the setting of the 4th Mass Effect game that took place more than 600 years after the events of the original Mass Effect trilogy. Then, following this teaser, BioWare released a new 30-second trailer that hints at a connection to those original games. In the aforementioned trailer, the person in it is clearly wearing something with the N7 insignia, harkening back to the first 3 Mass Effect games. And while we don't yet know who this character is, given the way BioWare is hyping them up, we couldn't be surprised if they were the next Mass Effect protagonist. You can have a better look at that alleged protagonist over at the BioWare Twitter account, which that was a sweet art, I tell you, Paul. The sweet art, like that looks like a warlock, like a Destiny warlock, but
yep. I love that design. That is such a cool design, like incorporating the N7 stripe and the insignia into like a black coat with a red lining on the inside.
Yes. BioWare revealed its next Mass Effect game during the Game Awards 2020 with a teaser that featured the original trilogy character Liara and a broken relay message. We got another hint in 2021 with a special N7 Day image, and another clip of the game the following N7 Day in 2022 that featured a hidden audio message to the code. This week's N7 Day tease marks the 3rd year in a row we've learned just a little more about BioWare's next Mass Effect. This tease follows news from August that BioWare was laying off 50 employees, many longtime veterans of the studio as part of a studio restructure. Yeah, they were also a studio that suffered layoffs. As exciting as this is, Paul, we also got some distressing news as a follow-up. We're switching over to BGC as they're relaying insider gaming info by story by Chris Cullion. The next Mass Effect isn't expected until 2029 or later, reports claims. BioWare marked its annual 7 day on Tuesday by publishing a teaser for its next Mass Effect game. However, during Giant Bob's Game Mass morning show on Wednesday, the site's Jeff Grubb and Timur Hussein both shared that, according to their sources, the game is still a long way off. You want some original reporting? Grubb said, "This game is just nowhere near coming out. I was told that when they revealed Dragon Age Dreadwolf in 2018, this is similar in terms of timeline. That was announced in 2018 and we're not getting that game until maybe next year. Now do the math for that. And we're talking 2029 for Mass Effect 5. Hussein replied, "I've heard some things as well. As this game is so far away, it is so far in another galaxy right now." Grubb went on to claim that his sources told him that the N7 teaser was created mainly to reassure fans that a game was still in the works, rather than any sort of indication that it was coming anytime soon. When I asked, I was just like, "Hey, is this just because they have to do something for N7, Dave?" Yes, for this thing, that's all this is. BioWare's attention is still focused on Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which has yet to release a solid release window. Grubb reported in August that the game's release keeps getting pushed back internally after he discussed the behind-the-scenes going on at BioWare with unnamed sources following the news that BioWare was making a new round of layoffs. Earlier in August week, BioWare General Manager Gary McKay said the company was cutting around 50 roles as part of a shift toward becoming a more agile and more focused studio. Grubb sources claimed Dreadwolf was once being considered to release in September 2023, but that the game keeps getting delayed. The game's target release window was then moved to March 2024 a while ago, but it's currently planned to come out next summer at the earliest, it's claimed. However, Grubb also said he thinks it's very likely that the game's release will get pushed back even further, probably to late next year, but possibly to early 2025. If there's something that I do trust Grubb on, Paul, that he never gets anything wrong with, that is EA. He gave us Jedi Survivor. So, like, he teased that and like he nailed
I gotta
the whole.
say, at this point, does Mass Effect technically have more material out than the new Dragon Age game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
The fact that with 30 seconds of a teaser video, we have more information than the Dragon Age game that's supposed to come out next year.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
A good sign.
Yes, and next year is 10 years since Inquisition.
Yep.
That is wild. That it's gonna be 10 years.
And they can't
in between entries.
Another game.
They just can't. They seem incapable. But here's kind of like what I feel bad for BioWare is because they released 2 bombs in a row, Andromeda and Anthem. So it's like they recovered some goodwill with the Legendary Edition trilogy they released for the first 3 Mass Effect games because they did work on that. They didn't farm that out. They actually made sure that collection was pristine, and it was. It's a really great way to experience that trilogy in modern times. But it's like they're so gun shy and scared. And they have also been at the nexus of EA's changing priorities. Their game was going to be a live service game, the Dragon Age 4. That got canned. The live service thing when EA saw the success of Fallen Order in 2019. So they had to reboot because they were BioWare begged, be like, hey, single player can still work. Give us time. Let us prove you that we can still make a single player stuff, not a live service. Look at Anthem. You can't Anthem for pursuing live service, even though that was we wanted that. It was like they want a live service, and BioWare decided to do that with Anthem. Anthem a big failure, so it's like they're so desperate to get this thing so right, but it's borderline comical how long it's taking them to make it. So, and EA just doesn't want to shut BioWare off because they know the optics for that would be so catastrophic, especially because EA has been known for shutting studios down that they bought. And the name BioWare still carries some name, even though it's not the same BioWare that gave us all those masterpieces before. But it's just so funny. It was so cool seeing the Mass Effect teaser because that's so cool. That more cyberpunky look of the new character and all that. And now hearing this, it's like, wow, 2029, Paul. Wow. Yeah, it's it's wild.
So that's
6 years from now.
Happen, so 5, 6, 7, 8. 9. Since 2024 started, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm saying 5, but also none of this matters anymore. It's ridiculous. This is literally the Elder Scrolls 6 problem where they were vague fantasy setting, Elder
Mm-hmm.
Scrolls 6, and then
Yeah.
like they just started working on it like this
Mm-hmm.
year or
Yeah.
something. I love the design, but also that's just really irresponsible.
Yeah.
So
Don't
yeah.
tease games this early. We have
I
learned
know.
that already the hard way. Don't do that. It's like, just don't do that. There's puts unnecessary pressure. It's really sucks. It absolutely sucks. I want more Mass Effect. It's like I've been like thinking I want more sci-fi RPGs. Starfield was not it. It scratched an itch, but it's like this. It can't just be this. I need more. Gosh, it's like I need more of this. It just sucks. So moving on to other sucky news, Paul. This one is more personal. This one's also interesting because this was I actually listened to some of the early episodes we did in 2021. Uh, we actually talked about this game because this is when it had broke that they were gonna work on this game, and now because of all the Embracer shit happening, this is what's happening. Story number 8 by Wesley LeBlanc, also from Game Informer. Embracer reportedly might close Free Radical Design, its reformed Time Splitters team. Publisher Deep Silver, which is owned by Embracer Group, announced in 2021 that it was reforming Time Splitters developer Free Radical Design to begin development in a new entry in the series. Now, a new report from Video Games Chronicle says this reformed Free Radical Design could be facing a complete shutdown, adding to Embracer's continued restructuring that has resulted in the closure of studios like Saints Row developer Volition Games. Yesterday, Embracer COO Egil Strunk announced that he had resigned from the position to launch a new game company, as reported by PC Gamer, amidst Embracer's rough year. Today, BGC reports that people familiar with the matters of Free Radical Design say the studio has been part of an evaluation within Embracer and that the studio could close as a result. The publication writes that PlayOn, which is the Embracer division that runs Free Radical Design, must consult employees at least 30 days in advance before layoffs per UK law. That law is likely how Free Radical Design employees have learned about a potential closure. BGC knows that on LinkedIn and social media, at least 15 Free Radical Design employees have said they're looking for a new employment within the last 24 hours. Game Informer has reached out to Embracer to ask for confirmation and more details surrounding Free Radical Design's potential closure, and will update the story if more information is learned. As noted by BGC, while the studio could close, that's not yet guaranteed. It could be acquired by a third party interested in the team, or simply kept open with a change of mind by Embracer. Embracer-owned publisher Deep Silver, who also published this year's Dead Island 2, announced in 2021 that it had reformed the original Time Splitters developer Free Radical to create a new Time Splitters game. This new version of Free Radical Design features key members of the original team, including founders Steve Ellis and David Doak, both of whom worked on games like GoldenEye 007 and Perfect Dark, while previously employed at Rare. That's why Time Splitters is special, Paul, because that's the official sequel to GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. The first iteration of Free Radical Design was purchased by Crytek in 2009 and then rebranded as Crytek UK. However, it was shut down in 2014 with much of the staff moving to Dead Island 2, developer Deep Silver Dambuster Studio, which also developed Homefront: The Revolution. Deep Silver owners Koch Media purchased the Time Splitters IP in 2018, officially making Free Radical Design a Deep Silver studio in the process, all of which are now under the Embracer Group umbrella after Embracer purchased Koch Media in 2018. Free Radical Design was set to develop the fourth Time Splitters game in the series, but now its future as a studio remains unclear. The potential Free Radical Design closure joins an unfortunate, ever-growing list of layoffs affecting studios this year. So, it's interesting because I told you about this game, Paul. I kind of gave you an idea. It's like GoldenEye, but in like a time travel like future. That's like what Time Splitters was.
And I wish I'd been able to like get into it back then. This is one of those examples of like I was so focused on licensed games that original IPs like I had no motivation to seek out or try because I didn't have a friend that was like, bro, you gotta go get Time Splitters in like third grade. So that never happened.
So good news, Paul. Since you have my Xbox account, Time Splitters 2 and Time Splitters Future Perfect, the third game, were Xbox backwards compatible. They're there.
So
I would recommend
1 and 3,
2 and 3. The one never came.
Okay.
Yeah, one was a PS2 exclusive, and it was just multiplayer only. Download Future Perfect, which is the third one. It's standalone, and it's the best one of those three. It holds up shockingly well. It's really fun. So it's like give it a whirl sometime so you can kind of see. It's like I really love that game. It's super short also, so it had really fun multiplayer. That was one of the more fun multiplayers that I had on Xbox back in the day with my friends. You could play like its entire campaign in co-op, and then it had like zombie horde, like a version of zombie horde mode before Call of Duty had zombie horde mode. Is that it had customizable multiplayer, kind of like GoldenEye used to have. It was wild, and sometimes a little inappropriate. Sometimes there's very busty female characters. Obviously, you don't see the nipples, but it's like they're in that kind of design. It's kind of funny. Like when I recently played, I was like, oh yeah, it's like it's of that time. So yeah, it's still, to me, it's like fuck Embracer Group. Like imagine it's like 2 years ago. Oh yeah, we bought the Time Splitters IP. We want that back. Hey, the team, like let's assemble the team, and for them to make that game. 2 years later, now they want to close them. It's like all because a deal with the Saudi Foundation that fell through for $2 billion. Like they needed $2 billion, and without that, they crumbled. It's like, yeah, they can go die in a fire for like care. Like,
I just can't believe
yeah,
that they did so much buying with no plan on what and who they were going to sell these things to. They just, this is like the concept of somebody walking up. It's like a monkey picking up several sticks and then suddenly getting like really possessive over them. It's like just, you don't understand what you've got, and it's all of these people in big companies that don't care about games at all, that are buying IPs because they're like, yeah, I remember my kid played Tomb Raider back one day. I don't know, he's a very big disappointment to the family. Let's buy the entire thing. Yeah, it's just disappointing, and I hope that one day that it seems like all we can do is hope that eventually the older generation dies off enough that other people eventually by default take over these companies. But here we are.
Yeah, if you think about it this way, Paul, is like just like late last year, that when it broke overnight, these were also the guys that bought the Lord of the Rings IP. Remember, it was like they were buying a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
It's like, with what money? It's just insane that it's probably they like borrowed money, and when they needed to kind of like pay it back, they just had no plan. That's the only thing that explains how they were able to acquire so freaking much, and they're now like in this position. It's like, I fear for some things that they have under them. Gearbox they bought also. Apparently they want to sell the Gearbox. Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal got sold to them for the cheap. So cheap that it was like insulting. Remember? It was like how cheap they sold the Tomb Raider IP in the studio and all that, like, because Square Enix just wanted to get rid of them so that much that they're selling for so cheap. That I tell you, it's like, much as I hate to admit it, Microsoft, you just finished Activision. Come save some of these studios, please. Come save them.
Please buy them.
Yeah, I do believe that at least they have a little bit more of a plan because they have Game Pass. So, and this seems like the kinds of games that would work on Game Pass, if I'm perfectly honest. But it's just like, Embracer is just a bad steward for having that, and I would fear that them buying all that stuff and then all of it is lost to the ether. It's like, I was excited with the idea because they were bringing back AA. That seemed exciting, but it's just clear that they didn't have the plan and they're going the way of the old THQ. So, please, Free Radical, hopefully someone can come save you because I want that new Time Splitters. I want to see like what a modern Time Splitters could look like. So, and now we're finishing, Paul, with a couple Sony news. So, the first one of these, story number 9. By Wesley LeBlanc, Marvel Spider-Man 2 hits 5 million units sold in 11 days as PS5 surpasses 46.5 million units. Marvel Spider-Man 2 hit PlayStation 5 exclusively on October 20. It turns out plenty of other enjoyed developer Insomnia Games' latest superhero effort, so much because Sony has revealed that in just 11 days, it sold through more than 5 million copies, making it one of the year's best-selling games. For context, Marvel Spider-Man 2 outsold Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is the fastest-selling Super Mario game, after selling through 4.3 million copies in 2 weeks. Marvel Spider-Man 2 was named the fastest-selling PlayStation Studios game just 3 days after its release too, when they revealed that in 24 hours it sold 2.5 million copies. As for how Marvel Spider-Man 2 sold so well, it helps that its predecessors, Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, were so well received. Plus, as of the latest financial quarter for Sony, which ended September 30, the PlayStation 5 has surpassed 46.5 million units sold, creating a large community of gamers who could have picked up Marvel Spider-Man 2. In total, the PS5 has sold through 46.6 million units in its lifetime, thanks to a strong second quarter in Sony's fiscal year 2023, where it sold 4.9 million PS5 consoles. That's 1.6 million more than the previous quarter. In the same quarter, Sony sold through 4.7 million first-party games. Marvel Spider-Man 2 was not yet released, and in total, 67.6 million PlayStation 4 and PS5 software, which includes any game released for the consoles. Sony says 67% of the games purchased for its PlayStation consoles during the quarter that ended September 30 were digital downloads. By the end of this quarter, Sony tracked 107 million monthly active users on the PlayStation Network, with 47.4 million PlayStation Plus subscribers in the same time period. So, this officially makes Spider-Man 2 Paul sell even faster than Spider-Man 1, and in a smaller install base with a PS5 than how many PS4s were in the wild in 2018, which was the console's fifth year, and out around 80 million units. And this is like fastest selling. It's selling fast on the heels of how great the first Spider-Man and Miles Morales sold. That's inertia.
I know we had just kind of had this whole discussion about Spider-Man. It's great to see that clearly the terminally online crowd
doesn't represent that.
Complaining about things, because everybody else is very happy to see another Spider-Man game. And even if it's going to be overtaken by other things that we talked about, like Mario and some of these others big holiday titles, I mean, Spider-Man 2 on only the PS5 is crushing it, and it's good for them. And clearly that means that Spider-Man 3 is going to be in the works. Wolverine's in a really good place, and Insomniac continues to just absolutely blow people away.
Yeah, and it makes sense that they would sell this much in the time period, because it's like the things people have been like posting online. Oh, look, Spider-Man turned into a cube. There's many bugs and glitches and things like that. Or the first game has a better story, or whatever like that. The discourse has turned around that game. On the strength of how many people love the first two Spider-Man games, the marketing blitz this thing has been getting. That I just recently saw, like, they put a truck like hanging beneath the Louvre over at France, like with spider webs and all that. And like they're doing like that. They're doing like a massive financial push for this game, and in fact that like consoles were widely available. It's like this at least was very front loaded. It's kind of like I'm eating a bit of crow here, because I've been checking like the UK numbers are really interesting, because weekly you can see like what's at the top. I saw Spider-Man go from number 1 the week that this thing came out, like beating Mario, and then dropping to number 3. And then when I combine it with the Variety article talking about like the MCU being in trouble, with the reporting, and then I was seeing like the response to Captain Marvel and like the last minute trailer that they put out this week, linking it to Avengers and Endgame, trying to play on nostalgia, showing that was like a very desperate move. I was like, when I saw that Spider-Man was like a number 3 in the weekly UK, so I was like, yeah, that tracks. It's like, yes, Spider-Man is popular, but there's like a little sense of Marvel fatigue that's like hitting if it dropped that quickly after like a week. But it also shows how much it sold in that first week. That within like the first 11 days, which the tracking of UK has covered more than 11 days, it has sold this much. So Spider-Man, at least from the PS4 in the PlayStation side, the gaming side, seems to be relatively safe from the fatigue, even though the discourse around it is way more toxic than the other games. But that's just inherent to PlayStation in general, where even Ragnarok was toxic. But I will say this: like this has sold. Ragnarok sold 5.1 million copies also like in 11 days last year, but that was on PS5 and PS4. This was just on PS5, so this is more impressive, because then that means that this has really great attach rate. So congrats on Insomniac. Here's why Insomniac is the most important Sony studio right now. Like, it's like they give numbers, and on top of that, like for the people that care, is their game reviewed super well. By the way, I wonder. Let me see how it's faring. Marvel Spider-Man 2 Metacritic. I want to see if it went down. It is at 90. It's still a 90 at 143 critic reviews and a 91 open critic. So it's like it was also critical success. So giving them critical success and all those sales are like. That 229 million price tag they paid for Insomniac in 2019, that came cheap. I tell you, that came super cheap. They're like carrying an entire console. Without Insomniac, can you imagine where the PS5 would be? insane. Even if you don't like,
Ridiculous.
even if you don't like Spider-Man 2 as much as you like the other one, like it's still like when you see that, it's like you understand why it's so important. So, and I see that you've also been playing Spider-Man 2 again, just like skipping
Yep.
story and all of that.
I'm completely skipping most of the cutscenes and I'm having the time of my life,
Mhm.
which is kind of disappointing to say, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like something about the specific challenge
Hmm.
that ultimate difficulty is giving me with only one fight, which is that freaking shield that Zach has been complaining about, the
Ah.
shield guy with the
Yeah.
EMP spear. It
Uh
is
huh.
ridiculously hard. You have to
Really.
parry them perfectly like
Yeah.
4 times.
Like Sekiro.
However, all of them have this one weakness, and that is webbing everybody to the walls and floor
Yeah.
and ceiling. Because it completely, like, it doesn't matter how much health an enemy has, if you can get them webbed to something, it's an instant KO.
Hmm.
And man, utilizing that is actually super fun because that is like your it's essentially like Sekiro's deflection, like instant kill. Or if you
Hmm.
can get the right situation for any enemy so that you can web them up the right way, it like ends the fight. But it's such a like you die in 2 or 3 hits that it's honestly kind of harrowing.
Hmm.
Um, and I've gotten to the point where I have the black suit. I've been what was the last thing that I did? The last whatever the big
The tiger thing. Have you done it yet? Again.
yes.
Hmm.
I already that's where I found out how much I hated the shield bearers. It's the
Hmm.
mission after that where you have the big the chase with
Hmm.
Craven's stuff, the one that was on the showcase. You're
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
find the
The lizard.
lizard and
Yeah. The
all.
lizard chase. Yeah. Mhm.
Right. So I'm at that point right now. But
Now, by
it's
the way,
wild.
because patches have come out, how's the stability? Has the stability been fixed, or are you still seeing weirdness?
Stability is a lot better. There's still a couple things here and there that have an issue. But
Have you been soft
overall,
locked? Has soft locking
no,
been
no,
fixed, or oh,
no issues with that.
okay?
Um,
That's big then, because soft locking was a big problem early on.
it only happened once for me, and that was because I went and sat down at that specific spot. I just walked right past everything in that amusement park area.
But that was
Just
with the day one patch. I'm talking now. Have you been soft locked
oh,
with
no,
this
I'm
replay?
just saying, like I haven't, but I also haven't gone through and done the things that made me soft lock in the past. It
Gotcha.
was,
Okay.
which is the clarifying part, but also it's like it's probably fixed. I just can't confirm it 100%.
Yeah. Uh, I getting close to breaking. I've been satiating my hunger for Spider-Man by playing the older games. Like I literally finished 2004 Spider-Man 2 like 2 days ago. Yesterday I beat the 2002 Spider-Man game. For the Green Goblin movie, I beat it in one sitting. Then I immediately started playing Ultimate Spider-Man that I had already started. Also beat it. I'm playing Spider-Man 3 now, the movie game on PC because my PS3 disc was not working for some reason, which might be my PS3 shitting the bed again. Uh, and I downloaded, but Web of Shadows is still there. So I've been like me waiting for that new game plus, but hearing that, I'm like, I did create an alternate account to try to like play through the entire like Insomniac trilogy again, but to earn trophies because it's kind of like that's what I was telling Sebastian when we were like playing when I did his episode for Spider-Man 2. Is like my big difference when I beat 2018 and when I beat this one. When I beat 2018 and I platinumed it, I felt like I had my fill. With this one, I didn't have my fill. I wanted to play more, and I feel that's I'd rather be there with a game personally than being so tired with one. Being like,
Yeah.
so I feel that's a good thing to have. And has your appreciation of the game increased now that you're like going through it?
Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
I think that's also what ended up happening at the same time. Like 2018 was already super high, so I don't know if I would say that it improved, but with
Mm-hmm.
every replay, I was understanding the mechanics so well that I felt like I was just matrixing
Mm-hmm.
my way through all of these crazy combat encounters. And with a few exceptions, for the most part, I've actually done that as well with Spider-Man 2's replay. Even without all of the abilities, I realized that with the right focus, I've created a much better build, a much better process with skipping most side content as well. I
Mm-hmm.
want to add. Um, I've gotten into this point where I'll like not get hit. I am webbing everything. I am beating the crap out of
Mm-hmm.
people. And it really reminds me because your option is either you're not as good, so you're healing more, or you're not having to heal and you're getting
Mm-hmm.
instant kills or
Yeah.
knockouts. Um, but because I forget Spider-Man doesn't kill. But anyway,
Which is so funny.
it's
You kill in the Raimi games. You can throw enemies from buildings that'll die, and it doesn't matter because
yeah.
those games just didn't account for that. It's like a discourse was different about hero killing back in the day. Oh yeah, I can't wait to eventually like do that. I'm just trying to see if I can satiate the hunger with like the older games as I wait for that new game plus because the director did mention in one of those spoiler casts that I listened that's a kind of like priority number one for the studio. They want to get that thing out ASAP. I just hope it happens. I bet you they're trying to time New Game Plus to the Game Awards, so that like when Spider-Man inevitably is gonna be in those nominees and all that, that can be like game reason other reasons for people to play it. So we'll see. It's like I really like that game a lot, and yeah, the Sparkcast with Sebastian reminded me why. But everything I love about that game is when as soon as the suit, when you get the black suit onward, all of that is just amazing.
Oh yeah.
So,
Which is
and,
nice when you mainline it, you get to that point a lot faster.
mm-hmm,
It's the problem is I think they just gave you too much side content too soon.
yeah. So that if it has bloat, it's a bloat
Yep.
problem. So
Yep.
yeah. Now the final story Sony related for this week's Paul. I have a Cheshire smile on my face, and I told you, you motherfuckers, meme in my face. Story by Wesley LeBlanc. Sony has delayed half of its planned PlayStation Live Service games. Sony announced it was acquiring Destiny 2 maker Bungie for $3.6 billion in January of 2022. A week later, in a quarterly financial results briefing, Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki revealed that PlayStation planned to launch more than 10 live service games by March 2026, with Bungie helping the company in the space. In an earnings call held today, Totoki stated that of its 12 live service games, it would only release 6 by the fiscal year 2025, which ends in March 2026, as reported by Video Games Chronicle. Earlier this year, Bloomberg reported that Bungie was evaluating some of PlayStation's in-development offerings, including Naughty Dog's Last of Us multiplayer project, which is reportedly on ice. It seems that evaluation has led to Sony retooling its approach, as the company has delayed at least six live service games. We're reviewing this. We're trying as much as possible to ensure these games are enjoyed and liked by gamers for a long time, Totoki said on an earnings call, according to VGC. Of the 12 titles, 6 titles will be released by fiscal year 2025. That's our current plans. As for the remaining 6 titles, we're still working on that. Totoki continues stating, that's the total number of live service and multiplayer titles, and mid to long term we want to push this kind of service, and that's the unchanged policy of the company. It's not like we stick to certain titles, but game quality should be the most important thing. In terms of PlayStation multiplayer offerings, we know it acquired Firewalk Studios in April to develop a AAA multiplayer title, and we also know the next Last of Us game, assuming it is still released one day, is a multiplayer factions-like project. Rumors point to Guerrilla Games working on some sort of online multiplayer game set in the Horizon world too. Plus, Bungie is working on Marathon. While it will be released on PlayStation 5, it's also coming to Series X and S and PC. Only time will tell which 6 live service games PS5 owners will be playing by March 2026, and which ones have been pushed to sometime beyond that. That's code, Paul, for they're canceling 6 of those. It's clear what's happening. It's like they've seen it's like they finally said, and here's what I say is like, I don't begrudge them pursuing live service because I have also been wanting them to spice up their portfolio because their games are pretty similar overall, which they've been great, but at a certain point it's like, yeah, try to do something else. It was just the fact that they were known for one thing, and with everything that they were announcing, they kind of felt like they were swinging the other direction, like very harshly under Jim Ryan. It's clear with what's been happening with live service, the live service bubble popping and all that. They realize that they cannot put all their eggs in that one basket. Releasing 10 live service games, like by 2026, that's just insane. And they probably hit the realization that when it comes to live service, that's full-time jobs for people. That's kind of like the kind of commitment you want from a player. They want you to engage in a live service offering beyond just like a fun multiplayer game that you play for 30 minutes and bounce. That used to be the norm back then, because everything needs further monetization and all that. It's like, you cannot put out that many, they're gonna die. And they realized that when they said that and they gave the time frame, I thought, oh yeah, they're like literally grabbing cow shit and throwing it to the wall and see what sticks. That's the only reason why you release, because yeah, we're gonna put all of these. Let's see one of the big, and that's the thing. If one of them sticks, they can make a lot of money. But it's like, with my despair over their last showcase, where we learned nothing of like what's in their slate. That's why I hated that showcase so much, because I needed to hear more. And their live service pitches in that showcase were horrible. Fair Games and Concord, we saw nothing from those games. So it's like, what are even these games about? So it's like, it's not tangible. Obviously, Marathon was announced there, so I have an idea what Marathon could be. It's a Bungie game. I know what a Bungie shooter is. So, and even then, right now, it's like Marathon is iffy right now with some of the reports that we've heard. So it's like, that's why I was so disappointed. Spider-Man 2 was the only thing they showed single player at that showcase, because it was like, I knew I was getting that. I needed something more. So, them scaling back.
The best way that somebody described it, and I'm pretty sure it's somebody that we both follow, so go ahead and attribute it to the right person if you hear it right.
Yeah.
But it's that there's just not enough time
to
play all of the live services games, because you're physically not, like, as much as you want to take all of like the hatred of capitalism, the microtransactions out of it. It's just, there's not enough times for adults to play the games that all of these games are marketing to. And none of those companies are, like, they're so prideful in the fact that they don't believe that somebody's going to choose a different game over theirs.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to be like, oh, this person's just going to keep playing Fortnite. We're going to try to pull the Fortnite people out, or we're going to try to pull the Apex Legends people out, or whatever it is. It's just not going to happen from like 80% of those people until the game itself folds. It's just not going to happen, and everybody keeps trying to fight that concept because they hope that they're going to strike gold. It is, I guess it really is a modern day gold rush. It's all the few people that have found the gold that have found it, and they are holding on to it. And you might strike a little bit here and there, but you are not going to find those veins that are going to make you a millionaire.
No. And why Apex was so successful, it happened during like the early days of the gold rush. Why Warzone was successful was Call of Duty, still a successful, kind of like relative successful franchise that had just been rejuvenated with Modern Warfare, launched Warzone, took the advantage of like the fidelity improvements and the mechanical improvements brought by Modern Warfare, and hit that gold rush the day the world locked down during COVID. That was the game that was available. That same day that I got locked down in my country was when Warzone came out. I'll never forget it for as long as I live.
The same day, huh?
Yeah, it was the same day. Why was those like games so? Because it was still early on in the fad. They hit at the time. Like with Apex, it was like that game was the remnants. Some of the remnants of Titanfall 3. Respawn played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds during 2017 when they were like concepting and developing Titanfall 3, and they were like, PUBG seems kind of cool. Let's see if we could like maybe like impose our mechanics into that. And that's how they were able to like launch Apex. And they did a thing no one else has done in the space. It wasn't even announced. They announced and released it the same day. There was no, here's an announcement, see you in 5 months. Because you can clearly see the scenario there of like, oh, they're working on a battle royale, and it's like, why are they doing this? Why are they pursuing this? Like, they were able to hit like the perfect moment with that game, where they launched it immediately. So they didn't allow any narratives to be formed. People just got to play it, and people liked it a lot because it was like different. Because if it was like a different flavor from Fortnite, it was like immediately available, and they played their cards right by developing immediately when they saw something with PUBG. Because remember, the craze with Fortnite happened a year after PUBG. PUBG was the craze during its early access in 2017. It was like, oh my god, it's like there's something here. Someone like adopts this, like and then the one that did, the one
had Save the World only.
Yes, and they only adopted that because Save the World was a failure. No one cared about Fortnite and Save the World. Like that was like in early access for a while, and like it came in like a fart in the wind, like a month after Save the World was
Remember
launched.
the pictures that I sent you of Game Informer's
Yeah.
big center page spread of like, oh, this new game called Fortnite. Look
Hmm.
at all of the crazy things you can do, building and
Hmm.
defending against zombies and all this stuff.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it didn't move the needle at all. And then suddenly, a month after Save the World had been in the market, and it was like, and not moving the needle. Then Epic was like, oh yeah, we're releasing Battle Royale. We saw what PUBG is doing, and we thought, hey, it would be cool to see if we can make that work. Which created big consternation for PUBG, because PUBG was using Unreal Engine 4, which Epic licensed the engine to. So they kind of got into like a weird dispute of like, you're stealing our idea and all that, and they wanted to throw a lawsuit at them over the term Battle Royale, which was like non-lawsuit worthy because it was too general a term to like try to do a lawsuit. And then by PUBG doing that, it's like they lost a lot of cachet, like trying to pursue that, because as they were trying to pursue legal action, Fortnite was just building their systems that by the time their third season came out, late December 2017, early January, it's like Fortnite suddenly was the big thing now. It's like I was flabbergasted when I was seeing that. Like even my roommates at the time, like when I was still living in the US, they were like, so have you been noticing that this Fortnite thing is just like blowing up? It was like that had happened. It's like PUBG walked and Fortnite blew it up. And then 2018 was when we got a few pretenders trying to get in, with Call of Duty and Battlefield 5 that year, and Black Ops 4 that year. It's like when the campaign for Black Ops 4 didn't come together, and they didn't want to ship a game with only 2 modes. They like scramble and put out Blackout, the Call of Duty version of a Battle Royale, which people thought was interesting at first, and it died so quickly. Because why was Fortnite still so big? Because it was free, and you had to buy Black Ops 4.
I think we should. We're gonna be summarizing the entire history of the battle royale genre.
No, it's almost done. Yeah, we're almost done with that. And then like
we have successfully summarized the battle royale genre.
Yes, and then the Battlefield one missed the launch in 2018. It launched after Apex, so no one cared with Firefly. So and then by then we had the battle royales, like what live service battle royale could be. That created the live service craze. That was the time. Anything that came out afterwards, all failures. So that's why I'm like, everyone that's still trying to attempt this thing, like we didn't even put the news because it wasn't too newsworthy. Because I was gonna mention it here, the WB thing with the biggest moron in existence, that is David Zaslav, saying like, yeah, it's like we have this big successful games, like they have the best-selling game of the year, by the way, with Hogwarts Legacy. And they're like, no, we want to create live service games that are gonna like be monetized like over time and create a player engagement forever. It's like this is something that Travis said over at the Last Word podcast last week when they were talking the things like, and he said it. And this is something that he should coin. Is like, engagement is the enemy of creativity. When like we hear people that they're trying to make games to boost player engagement, that's like, engagement is the enemy of good game design, because then you know that everyone's just designing things to just keep you in a treadmill instead of giving you good games. And that's like, well, that's the only thing that live service has become, that it's all just endless treadmills, endless and endless treadmills. And Sony's probably like, them trying to get in now, it's like, this is their fault for trying to get in now after the gold rush has happened. They were gonna see failure. Jim Ryan probably saw that. That's why he left. Especially with seeing like with the whole thing with Bungie, and Bungie failing right now with missing 45% of their forecasts. So it's like, this was great news for me. Like hearing that, because it's like, I know that they're saying that they're still, that you want to focus on quality and all that. It's like, no, they're like, cut it down. They probably cut it down to the ones that could realistically happen. Marathon is definitely gonna happen. I know the Factions Project, the director that was working on it, confirmed it recently that he's still working on it. How I see it is that probably they are doing what I told you they were probably gonna do. They're gonna like tie Factions to the Last of Us 2 remaster for PS5. They're gonna be like one and the same. It's like you could see like how we got Concord from Firewall, we got the Fair Games, that's 4 already. So it's like Gran Turismo is already like a live service. They got a recent update. So it's like they already kind of have enough to kind of fulfill what they said that they want to put out, and then they're gonna quietly shoot the other 6, like Outback, all mice and men style. So
Yeah.
so it's like because they know it's like you don't have to put all of this. It's like my only worry is that if they put all their live service X in their basket, it's like if this came at the expense of potential single player games that could have come out next year and even the year after, these are gonna be rough times at PlayStation. I'll tell you, they're gonna be very rough times. If they're like shifting priorities now, at a time where Xbox is finally ramping up their exclusives, this could get ugly for them. But that's the road they took. You gotta thank good old Jim Ryan that doesn't know how to grab a controller, like for that. So.
Yes, I can't really believe any of that's real, but this is the world we live in, isn't it?
Exactly. Oh yes, and I will continue blasting Sony from here on out for pursuing that forever.
Oh yes.
Yeah, especially like they should have started with 2 or 3, not what they went for, and now like look like, and even now Bungie's suffering. So. With that, Paul, that concludes this week's mammoth news section of the X button. Tell me, what are the games coming from November 12th to November 18th?
Well, first and foremost, while I pull this other thing up, I want you to look at this link that I'm sending you and just skip through it, kind of listen to the music for a second. And I'm going to go ahead and read these, and I'm going to come back to that briefly. So we've got Hogwarts Legacy coming out for the Switch on November 14th. Invincible presents Adam Eve on PC on November 14th. Turok 3, Shadow of Oblivion Remastered, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC November 14th. Teardown on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S on November 15th. The Last Faith on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 15th. Assassin's Creed Nexus VR Quest, November 16th. Flashback 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 16th. Naruto to Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch on November 17th. Persona 5 Tactica, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on November 17th. And Super Mario RPG on Switch, November 17th. Now, Alejandro, coming back to that brief thing that I mentioned.
So the Adam Eve thing is like a visual novel RPG kind of thing?
Yep.
It's like...
And it's like completely 2D drawn with this gorgeous art style. I've heard nothing about this game until I saw it here, and I looked up like the gameplay trailer. It's kind of awesome, honestly.
Yeah, especially for a visual novel. For a visual novel, it's actually pretty interesting. Angle.
It's coming out free for Prime members or Prime Gaming specifically. So anybody that has that gets access to the game. But for anybody who doesn't know, the Invincible Presents Adam Eve is like a prequel, interquel story through her perspective on like the early stages so far of what
the Invincible TV show,
essentially. Right, which, as we've also heard, they had a brief animated short that showed her as a child, kind of like coming into her own as her own superhero. Fantastically animated, and I unironically believe that Adam Eve is one of the best characters of that entire series, comics and show. Just from like depth, interest, creativity of powers. It's essentially Green Lantern, but actually does things. And
Invincible is so cool. Invincible.
I was caught off guard how surprisingly well made that game was. But yeah, Invincible as a concept and what it does, the show, the comic. I'm rereading the comic because I was like, you know me, I don't revisit things, especially if it involves like comics or reading. But I was like, I enjoyed that so much. I want to go back and like flip through and re-experience some of my favorite parts of that. And man, that series is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you.
At least I'll get to try it because I have Prime, so I'll definitely got it. Yeah, I definitely have Amazon Prime, so I'm definitely gonna see that. As for the rest of these games here, is like I'm interested to hear more about Assassin's Creed Nexus VR because Travis is reviewing that one. He actually like gave me a preview of that game the week that we recorded our episode with him. He was embargoed, so he told me about that game.
I did finally go through and listen to that, by the way. I finally did. I haven't listened to the Hogue one, but
yeah, eventually you will.
Travis was good.
Yeah, so he told me about that one kind of like after we finished recording. So that game is supposedly the killer app for the Quest. Is like everyone's like super cool, but let's see if it holds up like entirely. Because then the idea of like first person Assassin's Creed like in VR seems like vomit inducing, but apparently works super well. So Persona 5 Tactica Game Pass, we get to at least see it if we're curious. And I heard many praises to Super Mario RPG in relation to Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI as SNES RPGs from people that I trust very much, that they know their stuff for that genre. So I want to hear how that turns out for the Switch for November 17th, because right now we're off to the races. We have nothing else like that we were anticipating is done. Technically I still have Avatar, but it's like that's neither here nor there, and that's like so it's like that's just something like, hey, if it's good I'll definitely get it. If it's not, it's like no harm, no foul. Hopefully like we hear more about those Black Friday sales to see some of those games that slipped through the radars for us from earlier. Yeah, it's
praying so hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's like that's this week's episode, Paul. Chunky news one.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Where can people find you, Paul?
As always, y'all can find me at least until what's the day that they're taking away the Twitter connection for PlayStation 5?
In 4 days, the 13th.
Great. So you can find me until that day at Dork of Art on Twitter, because that is like 90% of what I post is directly from my system. It's not going to fully end, honestly.
Yeah. However, it's like if you still have the app, you can do it from there. So
right. I'll save the screenshots, download it to my phone, and then manually upload it. It's just a pain in the butt.
It's just a pain in the butt having to do an extra step, but yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I am. Dork of Art on Twitter. How about you?
They can find me at A_Dorsegovia on Twitter /X. You can find me at Alejandro_93 on Instagram /threads. You can also find my written content at both thecriticalcorner.com and seasonedgaming.com. You can find my Mario and Spider-Man reviews over at thecriticalcorner.com, and then you can find my campaign review for Modern Warfare 3 and Alan Wake 2 over at seasonedgaming.com. And I'm updating the Modern Warfare 3 review into a full review after I spent a little bit more time with the multiplayer and the zombie mode. I already got ahead by doing the beta. I already have my thoughts on the multiplayer, at least mostly formed. I just need to confirm that those changes remained and they didn't mess up some of the things, or if they improved some things, I'll definitely get to see that. But in Alan Wake 2 I'm very proud of that review. I'm really proud how that review that I even put the chapters. I even kind of like in the game. Do you know chapter 1? We even like played on the motif for that review. So it's like I'm very, very proud of like how that one turned out, and like I have no regrets on the score. My only regrets are seeing that some people are getting soft locked at the carnival section, and that's been like concerning because that was not a problem for me.
Wait, at which part?
When you put a fuse and there's like this carnival thing that turns around, apparently people are getting soft locked.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, that sucks because that didn't happen to me. Like,
yeah,
I had no problems with that game, like technically, but again, it's like it feels like with every new patch, games break more than gets fixed. That sucks. So, but I can only
the world we live in, right?
Yeah, I can only speak from my experience. So, oh man, we're getting close to Game of the Year, Paul. Next week we'll finally get an idea of the bloodbath that will be Game of the Year now. So that should be a fun one. But until then, we want to thank you all so much for always listening. Like, the reach Spotify has given our audio podcast is kind of like nuts. It's really nuts. So like just in the month, like just the numbers from like 1 month alone, like in reach, it's wild. So I want to thank everyone.
Has it jumped further than the last we talked about the numbers?
I haven't checked because that was like a month. I'm waiting for the next month to see like the reach.
Got it.
So you'll definitely see. So it's still like growing there. And YouTube says
shout out to the international crowd because that's like our biggest market, isn't it?
Second biggest market. The biggest market is the US.
Okay, well, all right, cool. Turn up, Americans. Yeah.
Yes.
We may be ruining the world, but at least y'all are listening to us.
Yes, because most of my friends also are American. More than like Salvadorian people rarely listen to my stuff. So, and also shout out to Hogue. He promoted us in his channel twice.
Yeah, good for him.
So yeah, that helped a lot. So especially on the YouTube side of things. So yeah, like you're very grateful to see like our consistent growth. Like even you not being much this year in comparison to like the previous 2 years, like it's still being like consistently in growth. So the show is like slowly establishing itself, and I'm pretty happy of that. Even if on video it's slowed down a little bit more, like audio really picked up, and I'm really happy for that. So we want to thank all our listeners and viewers for that. And with that concludes this week's episode. Go play the million games that came out this week. Maybe you can catch up with so much. Sales are coming soon. Maybe you're gonna get a bunch of them. Like weather. I don't know how your weather is right now. Right now it's like back to being warm where I'm at. I know it's cold where Paul is. So if you can,
it's actually warmed up again. It's in like in the mid 70s to high 70s.
Exactly. So it's kind of similar.
We're just all over the place.
Yeah, we're all over the place. So yeah, if it's warm, go touch some grass. Like and
press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.